I need your permission.
I guess the start off, who was Mother Luisita? She's a little girl that actually grew up to become a foundress. She was born on June. I gotta get the birth dates on. So let me just start off first. I'm going to give you sort of a bio on her. I'm going to be jumping around because this is, I'm just picking it up from within the 3 volumes in here that and I can't get exactly to focus on which one, because she said so many things that she did in such a short time of her life. And if you remember, she grew up at the time when there was a real persecution of the Catholic Church in Mexico. I never knew at that time. I mean, when I was growing up and going to school, I never thought of the church in Mexico as being persecuted. But it was such a horrific time during those times that she was living in. So her story is really a simple one. She was from a small town. Looking around the little town, you notice there's faces of people that are very simple. And that's all she could, where she was, according to the circumstances at the moment, corresponding to the graces of the Holy Spirit. Everything about her spoke of the depth of her soul. This is one of her favorite is, and the sisters, you can always catch on to that, is God will provide. So she's never concerned about having some things that are, concerned with the things of the material things that somebody has got to put it up for her. She figures it out that God will provide it. She was born in 1866 in Altonico del Alto, Jalisco. This, I think, probably familiar with Guadalajara, is probably close to that area. She was baptized, given the name of Maria Luisa de la Peña Navarro. But everyone calls her Luisita, so she's a little tiny girl. I think if you remember seeing Sister Caridad and her sister, all the sisters, they are not really that tall. They're all tiny. They're petite. So, and she was gifted by her God with such a devout Catholic parents. Luisita spent her early years on the family's beautiful hacienda. She was taught by home private. She had a tutor, and so she was raised up as a privilege. In the 15 years, at age 15, she got married to a prominent physician, Pascual Rojas, and they tirelessly provided medical care for people in the town, and they had been all that time. So her background has always been service, and one of the main things that she did was medical services to the people, the poor people there, because none of them probably did have the money or to get the help they need. They built together a little hospital called of the Sacred Heart, and the things came from that thing. And from 1904, the first group of women joined the little hospital, the Sacred Heart, until 1921, when they began to live the Carmelite life, Carmelite rule, professing vows as Carmelites. So, in her beginning, she wasn't really a Carmelite all the way through. She started off, and if you remember, she got married to a doctor, and after, when he passed away, that's when she continued to work on getting on her work with the poor and getting all the group of women to live together, and that eventually became the foundation for her, the sisters. And so let me give you some of the background on this. I mean, that's a sort of background, but I'm just gonna go, because there's this whole book in here is took me a long time, and I kind of marked them all up, but in 1882, the servant of God, she got married to Dr. Pascual Rojas, San Jose, and November 15, 1891, the beginning of the conference of the St. Vincent of Paul, she started that. She was in there. So she was kind of associated with giving the poor, helping out the poor. The March 3rd, 1904, the servant of God entered the monastery of the Discal Carmelites nuns in Guadalajara. She remained there 7 months. And in October 1904, the servant of God, after consultation with the Archbishop, left the Discal Carmelites in Guadalajara and returned to Atotonilco. She remained there until the direction of her local pastor, Father Arcadio Medrano. Together with Miss Maria Ruiz and others, she prayed for discernment to know God's will. Father Medrano asked the Archbishop for approval for them to begin with a regular community life. So at that time, before that, there was just kind of group of women together. On December 24, 1904, she and 5 others began life together in a community with a simple ceremony, Father Medrano presiding over it. And then during the visit of the Archbishop, Jose de Jesus Ortiz, Bishop of Guadalajara, then came over there and he asked them to, the superiors of the Sisters of Perpetual Adoration. This is where it kind of get a little confusing, because in here we talk about the foundation of the Carmelite sisters that are existing now. And so in the beginning, they sort of, this bishop wanted her to be part of this Carmelite congregation, an affiliation with a new congregation. So, but this is all God's work, and here the death of Bishop Jose stopped all that. So they kind of, they went back again to be separate ones. So in March 22nd, 1917, Archbishop Orozco y Jimenez authorized Mother Luisita and her congregation, who so desired it, to separate from the servants of the Blessed Sacrament and to return to Atotonilco. That's the beginning of the Carmelite sisters now. In August 1920, Mother Luisita and her congregation, with the blessing of Archbishop Orozco y Jimenez, asked to become affiliated with the Carmelite order, the same. On October 18, 1920, the sisters received the decree. So their affiliation to the Carmelite begins there. Mother Luisita and her 12 companions then received the Carmelite habit. It's later on that same day, mother and the sisters made their profession of vows to the order. First elections of the congregation was in April 2021. Mother Luisita accompanied the sisters to their first foundations in Guadalajara. There's in between this. This is I'm trying to give you some of the foundations for her new order. Carmelite sisters. Now, I think you have to remember also that during this time, there was the persecution of the church got really bad. So they started off. They had to go underground, literally. In other words, they had to take off their habits and to look like regular civilians within the. And so what they have done, and so in order for them to survive, because at that time the government was really, really looking for Catholics. There's particular priests, anything that looked religious, and persecuted them, and they're executed right in the spot. So, in order for their safety, they have to do that. And it got so bad that they actually decided to go to Los Angeles, to the United States, come across there. And she was accompanied by a couple other sisters. And you think in the book, we all have this in the face of darkness. Sister Timothy really wrote out that stuff about how they escaped. They went across from Guadalajara they came into Nogales here in Arizona, and then from there they went up to Los Angeles, where they established the community in there. And so she really was a really difficult time then. I think we're going to go back a little bit and touch on her spirituality, how she viewed wealth in particular. And because her parents, she was raised up from a devout Catholic family. Her father said to her, Luisita, God has blessed our family very much. We are responsible for the livelihood of many people. We have acquired more and more property, and now we own many of the estates in Los Altos. Our estates provide employment for our workers who keep them yielding such abundant harvest. We have many orchards, and with each one specializing in specific fruits or vegetables, we depend on them very much. And that was the first time Luisita began to understand the responsibility of a member of the upper class born into a family of wealthy owners. This realization was a milestone during her growing up years, and she still felt its impact. Yet she understood the words responsibility and stewardship. That stewardship had brought her on this journey to save the vocations of the sisters, especially the younger ones, from the moral dangers during these perilous times. That's what's about which was in Los Angeles and taken out. And that's and then there's in between the stories of that, they really suffered a lot of hardship. And just to establish, just to give you an example of this, of the things that she has to go through. When she established the monastery congregations. the foundations in October to establish a, a school and academy. So they did, these things are the ones that started off, schools, academy. They built a hospital chapel in Altotonico in 1926, 1927, at the beginning of the year. The religious house of Altotonico closed because of the persecution. This is when the sisters then moved from house to house. This is where they started going underground. That was in 1927. That's in June of 1927. Mother Luisita, together with Sister Margarita Maria and Sister Teresa of Jesus, left for the United States as religious refugees. That's came across in here. That's on that long journey. And of course, I think the book in here from Sister Timothy really describes that. I'm not going to get into all of that stuff. The Feast of the Sacred Heart on June 24th, 1927. Mother Luisita, together with Sister Maria and Sister Teresa of Jesus, arrived in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. So that's when they first came in there. And after having started the beginning years of domestic service at St. Mary's College in Moraga, California, operated by the Christian Brothers. That was given a little job in there. And having then returned back to Mexico in June of 29 rather. So she did a couple trips back and forth. Mother Maria Luisita returned back to the United States at the end of the year. The novitiates in Guadalajara was established. I'm going to jump back down here to the end, towards the end. Mother Luisita in February 20 became a foundress of the second time when the Holy See raised the American province to autonomous institute of pontifical right with the name of Carmelite Sisters of the Most Sacred Heart of Los Angeles. So we get the name from. What we have to hear, and we wonder what her title right now is. Venerable. So she is in process of becoming a blessed. She needed a couple more miracles attributed to her to be get up to that level there. There are causes. She was given that title of servant of God. Founders of the, in the word, in July 1937. During the Synod of the Family in 1980, Cardinal Pietro Palazzini, prefect of the Congregation of the Causes of Saint, in two synodal interventions, mentioned the servant of God, underlining the introduction of the cross. So the beginning of that thing was by Cardinal Pietro Palazzini. And on July 1st, 2000, Mother Luisita's heroic virtues were confirmed by the church, and she was declared venerable. That's when she got the title venerable. And so she is in the process of getting into, next step is the blessed, and then after that she becomes a canonized saint. So she's going there, and the sisters are looking for anybody that has any to pray for intercession, and so that if there's anything that comes out, that we can give it to them, and they can send that to Rome as part of the causes for them. for the sainthood. Um, I want to see. I want to jump off a little bit to our personal experiences. Our first encounter with knowledge of knowing about Mother Maria Luisita was through the Carmelite sisters in Douglas. That was a result of my grandson. He was, let's see, now he's 20, I'm trying to figure out catch the number of years, 24, and so add that back 3 months, 7 months, and it'll be almost like 25 years ago. That's when it first knew about the Carmelites. And from then on, that's how we, beginning of the Carmelite acquaintance and knowledge of them. What happened was, let me go with my grandson. He was Lisa was in 7th month, I think it was trimester. I'm not too good. But she was in the regular checkup for, on her regular routine pregnancy checkup. And they did the sort of, doing all that work, and they did an ultrasound. And the doctor there was kind of concerned about something he saw. So he called in a couple other specialists. And one of them was the kidney specialist, and they were looking at this kidney. And my son, he was, he said he was the one that explained, telling me. And he said that they took him in there, and they were showing him the picture, and it says, the doctor was pointing out in the picture, the graph, there's little holes. It says, those are not supposed to be there. See that part in it? I said, my son said, he had no idea what he's looking at. But he says he's taking the word of the doctor. There's little holes in there that says, that's a kidney. That's not supposed to be there. And that's bad. Okay, so that was it. So it's and send out that information back to us here. And we were all concerned about it. So our first, Bonnie was the one that did this. She went and talked to Father Greg and asked him for prayers. Father Greg started off thinking, I guess he was thinking about who to ask for. But he has been in contact with because he's the confessor for the Carmelite sisters down in Douglas. He said, I'll give them that information. Now he went down there and talked to them. And so they gave him, Sister Aloysius was the point of contact there, and she called up and told Father Greg that for us to get in touch with her and give her some more information. And we did that, and finally, we got hold of Sister, and she told us not to worry about it. They were going to put this case up a prayer, and as you said, to ask Mother Luisita for intercession, for some healing. And that was over this side of the world. On the other side of the world, what was going on was not very good at all, because the messages coming out was those 3 specialists in there that were looking at this, says there's none we can do. So what happened also in there is the fact is that they were really almost absolutely positive that that child was not going to survive after birth. He's probably going to live depends. It says that you can have him for maybe a second to however it is, maybe a week or 2 at the most. And, that's a kind of disconcerting thing. So we started praying for it. Now, at that time, Mother Luisita's remains were supposed to move from one of the old chapel to the perfect permanent place where she's at now. And this Carmelite sisters asked them to go down to see if they wanted to see get a picture of her or get a relic, because that's the only time, because they're going to conceal it. And when Sister Luisita went down there, she went there, she asked us to give a picture of Lisa, and that was what we get it. And she took that and she put it up. She says she put it up against the casket of the body of Mother Luisita, and so that sort of blessed in there. And then she took about number of rosaries that were touched on hers, and she gave that to us also, and we sent that to Lisa, my daughter-in-law, and she was there, and they used that. They put it to. She was wearing that. Now, just before, this is very interesting, because just before she gave birth, the night before that, she was in the hospital, and there's a corpsman, and generally this is Naval Hospital, corpsman, male practitioners, the nurses, and so they're not really actually supposed to be in the birthing rooms, and so he came over and he asked Lisa, says, "What are you here for?" He said, "I'm here because my son is been diagnosed as having polycystic kidney disease, and he told us, says, don't worry about it. He's going to be okay." So Lisa didn't think about that. He left the guy. The next day, she gave when they gave birth, because she had that rosary, the relics on her from Mother Luisita, and so she felt at peace at that time, she said. But then she came out, and when the baby was born, everybody thought that was going to be a bad thing. I mean, he's going to be ill or what. So they took her. They just gave it to the parents, and they said, "Go ahead and take him." They will release him the next day, send him home. So they didn't do anything. So then one of the doctors says, "Come on, we're going to run one more test on him," because they figured he's not going to be able. And he did, and he said, "There's nothing wrong with this baby." What? So the parents were astonished with that, and so Lisa wanted to find out who was that nurse, the corpsman that came in. They're supposed to have a signing sheet, the ward to get in, and there was nobody but that name. He had a name tag, and Lisa figured out what his name, but that name was not on that. So Lisa said, I think I just saw his guardian angel." So that was the final thing in there. But everybody there were all amazed. They couldn't understand that. Then we took all that information, those medical records, and so it's in Rome right now as part of the archives for her cause. There's another baby instance before him, and what is the same thing basically. He was diagnosed with a tumor in his brain, inoperable tumor, and he ran through all that thing, and then they did run again, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared. It's come. So those are two cases that's outstanding, Yeah, that's in. It's up. It's up on the. I guess the causes for the canonizations of saints in Rome.
What year did Mother Luisita die? Do you know? 19, just a decade.
1927.
1947.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I read her book too, and one of the things is when they were in hiding, they would have a wall and then a space, and they'd climb into this wall, and there was like 3 sisters or so, and one of them would raise up her hands, to just sacrifice
37.
and pray. And
37.
1937, 37, and she got tired, and so Mother Luisita, who had just done the raising of hand, she raised her hand instead of them. So they were hidden in this wall, and she would sacrifice for the younger sister by raising her hands. One thing I know.
Okay, we can continue this
conversation. Before I conclude this, I have a number of letters that she wrote. This shows her spirituality, and for this. Let me read this one. This one I had. I'm just going to read not the whole thing. Okay. From a mother's heart. Here's my beloved child. Do you want our Lord to communicate with you? Then try to do the following. Preserve unity and peace with everyone who lives under the same roof. Try to have a habitual recollection by thinking of God. Familiarize yourself with some little short prayer with which you invite Jesus to come into your heart. Make it a point to entertain yourself with things that pertains to God. Keep yourself in healthy fear, guarding the doors, your senses, being careful what you let come in. Ask for the grace to know and overcome the obstacles that opposes a greater union with God. And here's our counsels which I give you. To do everything for God our Lord, seeing Him in the person of the poor and the sick, and to frequently offer Him your words. So I got a whole bunch of other ones in there. And in closing, may the Sacred Heart of Jesus be your love, your guide, and your consolation.
When I first became a Carmelite, and everybody was praying for me, my little granddaughter, she was only 5 at the time, and she couldn't walk at all. And the Carmelite sisters were praying for her, and I sent pictures down there to them, and she walked. They were praying for her to walk. She walked. So I don't know if that went into the archives or not. It wasn't, I communicated about 3 times maybe to the Carmelite sisters, so they knew. But I don't know if it went into